This is a little video I wanted to show you about gardening and whether you should beat yourself up over weeding or not. So it's to weed or not to weed. So I did a little test this year. One of the most dreaded weeds that we have here in Newfoundland that everyone seems to hate is goutweed. And goutweed's actually a pretty lovely plant. It's like a ground ivy. Well, that's a nickname for it. And it also comes in a variegated form, which is even prettier. And I have some of that all the way down there. Very lovely ground cover plant. But it does tend to overtake your garden and just intermix with everything. Now, I've never found that it choked out any of my plants, and actually in dry areas like here in these rock walls, it acts really well as a green mulch. So it's not always necessary to weed. This is a proving point how goutweed can actually be beneficial to your plants in keeping the moisture in the soil. I decided to take half of these daylilies and weed out the goutweed, and the other half right here I left the goutweed in place. And as you can see, the daylilies with the goutweed in place are flowering and doing really well. The daylilies where I weeded out the goutweed are shriveling up, burning up, and dying. This is full sun, although we don't really get full sun here in Newfoundland, but it's the driest part of my garden. And I'm positive now that the goutweed acts as a green mulch by covering the ground underneath the plants and keeping the moisture in. So there's quite a big difference here from where I weeded out, and I did this last year, to the area where I just went ahead and kept the goutweed. And the daylilies are not choked out in any way. They're actually flowering more here than they are over here where I removed the goutweed. So don't always assume that weeds are taking over your garden. Backbreaking work, hauling them all out. Just pay attention and take a look and see if they are actually choking out your plants, or they may just be benefiting your plants by acting as a green mulch, keeping the ground nice and moist while they're still getting full sun. So just a little garden tip. Weeding doesn't need to always happen. And I actually think it looks better because it looks thicker here with the goutweed in between. And the daylilies certainly love growing in amongst the goutweed. It's in no way choking out the daylilies. And the daylilies actually are suffering in the area where I removed the goutweed. So I hope you enjoyed this little garden tip that can save you some backbreaking work. Just pay attention to the weeds in your garden and see if they're actually doing any harm, because sometimes they're not, and there's no need to really remove them.